This lesson is designed for students in that formal operational stage of learning. It is a lesson on the threats to biodiversity in relation to our local forest ecosystems. So at this point in their learning, students are expected to be able to juggle multiple concepts at one time. They are also expected to be able to think critically to solve problems. So the first phase of this activity is going to involve a discussion on biodiversity and what the threats to biodiversity are. Some of those threats may include human population. As humans expand and develop, we directly modify or we take the habitat that is available to wildlife. So habitat loss is a huge threat to biodiversity. Climate change is also another threat to biodiversity. So I've asked students to go to the Climate Science Special Report webpage, and they're going to review what some of those future projections are regarding climate change. While they're looking through some of the information, I want them to pay particular attention to what's occurring or expected to occur in the eastern United States and the northeastern portion of the United States, as that's where we're located. Coming into this, students probably have a good idea of what food webs are and some of those community and population dynamics. So once students have a good idea of what biodiversity is and what the threats to biodiversity are, including climate change, I've asked them to go out, explore our local forest ecosystem, and identify some of these threats to biodiversity. I'll suggest going to our local state park, and here students may identify or they may recognize that there are a number of old dams that are present along the streams. Some of them have been disassembled, and there are a few new dams present as well that are still operational. So these dams directly affect the aquatic ecosystem. They affect the flow and turbidity of water, the nutrient distribution, and things of that nature. Students may recognize that these dams do in fact pose a threat to biodiversity in this region. Some of the other things that students may recognize is that there are a number of invasive species present in our local ecosystems. Some of these invasive species are bush honeysuckle, Japanese stiltgrass, and these invasive species are outcompeting our native species for resources. So students may identify that that is in fact another threat to biodiversity. Some of the other things they may consider is, with some of those climate change projections, our oak trees may be threatened. So the oak trees are by far the dominant tree species in this area, or genre I should say. And they may say, well, if climate change decreases acorn production from these oak trees, then our local wildlife will be losing out on a food source. Birds, squirrels, deer, any number of wildlife can rely on these oak trees for habitat and food. Something else they may consider are what are the effects on our soil. So they may notice that there is a nearby agriculture farm and that maybe they spray chemicals on their crops, and these chemicals can leach out into the surrounding soils, into the surrounding waters, and negatively affect that as well. So I've asked students just to go out and explore and see what they can find in their ecosystem and identify what some of those threats to biodiversity are for the aquatic ecosystems, the terrestrial ecosystems, those effects on our soil, and things of that nature. This activity kind of reflects that experiential learning theory where students learn kind of by in a self-guided manner rather than necessarily formal instruction. So it kind of combines aspects of both formal instruction and the self-guided learning.